These are three groups of three types, and they are the head triad, the heart triad, and the gut triad. Each triad has a central type, and the central type of the gut triad, sitting at the top of the Enneagram, is type 9. The passion of this type is sloth, and it is the most basic of the passions. In fact, the degradation of consciousness can be represented by these three passions. Sloth refers to a sort of psychospiritual laziness, a falling asleep to one's true self, a forgetting of one's essence. From this comes fear, which is the passion of type 6. When we forget our essence, we have no basis from which to act, and when we do not have a basis from which to act in a world that requires action, we, without facing our true self, create a false self from which to act, a false self to identify with. This brings us to the passion of type 3, vanity. As long as we identify with our false self, the more we repress our true self, which in turn perpetuates fear, which perpetuates our identification with our false self. So it is a cycle. These basic passions also characterize the three triads to which they belong. The head triad deals with fear, the heart triad deals with vanity, and the gut triad deals with sloth. Let's talk more about each triad now. The head triad encompasses Enneatypes 5, 6, and 7, and it is oriented towards intellect. This triad overemphasizes thought to the detriment of emotion and spontaneity. The mind is their safe haven, cut off from emotions and spontaneous action, which are subordinate to the mind, for they fear not being able to mentally deliberate everything first. They over-rely on mentally managing their lives, leading them to have difficulties in truly relating to others or simply taking life as it comes. In times of stress, usually caused by their inability to naturally engage in the emotional and physical aspects of life, they effectively and/or instinctively give up as they disconnect and withdraw into their own minds. In order to grow, these types must learn to lose their minds. The heart triad encompasses Enneatypes 2, 3, and 4, and it is oriented towards emotion. The main concern of this triad is of being seen and loved. They implicitly lack faith that their true selves are worthy of being loved, so they build an identity with the anticipation of being seen in order to gain love. As they are preoccupied with the attention they receive, they must also give attention to others, which gives them a developed interpersonal ability in the sense that they understand the desires of others in order to appeal to them. They experience life through feelings like desperation, love, approval, and feelings of hurt in the face of rejection or not being seen. They neglect the detached, rational aspects, as well as the concrete aspects of reality by themselves, as they are processed in terms of their relation to the image or identity they create. These types need to let go of their image and focus more on their rationality and body as independent. The gut triad encompasses Enneatypes 8, 9, and 1, and it is oriented towards action. As this triad is related to the body and not the mind or emotions, there is a lack of abstraction, a lack of inwardness. They look out to reality without looking into their own inner mental and emotional life. This gives them a pseudo-contentedness, as they are the least in contact with their sense of inner deficiency. The original ignorance to our wholeness, which leads to this deficiency, seems to be countered by ignorance itself, ignorance to their lack of being. This double ignorance gives them their apparent satisfaction with themselves, but the root of the issue is not truly resolved. They still feel dissatisfied and try to resolve it by over-focusing on outer reality. Their experience of reality feels as though something is missing due to their neglect of the emotional and mental domains. In order to grow, they need to cultivate their own inner reality, enriching their experience. Each of the 9 types do not only have the triad of the one they belong to, they have an auxiliary triad as shown here. There is also a tertiary triad for each subtype.